So, as you all know, Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 are finally out after 4 years. While I haven't played it, I have seen a few playthroughs on the game and am doing a review. Now, before you complain that I didn't play the chapters, so it's not a good review, but I'll be basing it on how I think I'd do, so I hope you don't be mean in the comments. Without further ado, let's start with this review. Starting off with Chapter 3, we begin with Chris and Susie waking up. Not much happens until we meet Ralsei and the trio talk about the events at the end of Chapter 2. Then, Ralsei kills half of the Fambus's theories by saying he's a Darkner and gives info about how Dark Worlds work. We then have a video play introducing us to Mr. Antenna, and Tenna himself is in 3D for some reason, so it's going to suck being someone who can't handle the graphics, but hopefully not many people experience those issues. We then go through this Zelda-like minigame which is going to suck for speedrunners. Fast forward to a cooking minigame which definitely parallels Metatons like other things. There is also a grading system, but you have to get an A rank to get a better rank, and you need an S rank to start the process of getting the secret boss. My only problem is that if you get a B or a C, you don't have a chance to get an important item. Then, we have to do a rhythm game, and Ralsei sings a family-friendly version of the original song, so I'm impressed. After a bit, we end up meeting Toriel, who's asleep for the whole Dark World. I have to admit, having her just be asleep is very disappointing, but it seems like they won't do this again, or at least I hope they don't. Tenna finds us and we go through messed up versions of the minigames before escaping. We then go through the final area, which brings back the stealth segment along with a cowboy minigame, so I guess Woody Theory wasn't entirely wrong. I also love this gig where if you recruited the Darkners, they sneak along with you, and this guy also joins. We are then met with Rule's card, who's still in his throw-up but then fights us. It is quite annoying to have your items taken from you, but the fight is pretty quick, so it's fine. After the fight, Lanino and El Nino end in a throw-up with Starwalker. This is the best outcome. Anyways, if you've been doing some extra games, you fight this thing which gives you the Shadow Mantle, which might be the one from Chapter 1. Then, everyone starts to turn to stone, so we have to seal the fountain but have to fight Tenna. The fight itself is very cool. I like how you have to get points to win, and you can also do the minigames for points, including this optional minigame with Susizilla. Tenna himself doesn't have many attacks, but it's fine, and the final attack that combines all the minigames is cool. My only complaint is that you take damage for doing something wrong once. I feel like you should take more damage if you get hurt 3 times, but that's my personal preference. So, once you end Tenna, he joins our side and he lives happily ever after. That's right, he isn't the final boss, it's actually the Roaring Knight. At first, you might think this is an actual fight using your healing items, only to die and realize you can't win, because why should you be able to beat the main antagonist in Chapter 3? After this, Undine shows up and is awake, but gets taken away. At least she actually gets to see the Dark World. After this, Chris and Susie go back to the Light World for a scripted chase scene where we find out there's a Dark World in the bunker. Susie goes and we see a code. Then the chapter ends with the bunker opening. You know, if you told anyone the Roaring Knight would appear in Chapter 3, they would think you're on piles of Asriel's dust. Now, before we move on to the next chapter, there is something you should know. As you may have noticed, I haven't mentioned the secret boss yet. That's because it appears right at the end of the game. That's right, it's the Roaring Knight. The reason I mention this after Chapter 3 is because if you die to this boss after beating the chapter, you get a message from Gaster asking you if you want to fight it. The Shadow Mantle makes this fight easier, but you can do it without it. This fight is really hard, mainly because it's supposed to be a boss you can't at the moment, but after a few hours, you'll hopefully beat it. Well, not beat it, but get the shadow crystal along with the black shard, which is really up. Anyways, now that we're done, let's move on to chapter 4. We start off at the fountain for chapter 3. This seems to be more of a flashback because we wake up and Susie is having breakfast. After eating, Toriel has her Undertale clothes and gives Chris and Susie new outfits. We then get to see the church and by extension, MS Boom. We then get a title drop, which is cool. After that, we have some funny stuff and Catty with a Y yaps about something. Then Alvin, who's not the knight, yaps about something. After a bit, Chris falls asleep, and when we wake up, we see a scene that shows how their relationship with Susie has been developed. We can then talk to everyone and learn a bit more about the shelter. Also, MS Boom knows about wave dashing. Also, is that an Undertale red and yellow reference? After getting enough clues, we talk to Susie and mention certain attributes the knight has. Then Susie flirts with Noel and we go to her house. Before that, yes, this guy is still embarrassing himself in front of his child's friend. After that, we finally get a light world section and it's in the afternoon. There are many things you can do, such as giving Metat and Tina to be a couple. Onion doesn't appear, which is quite unfortunate. Rudy references Deltarune tomorrow and Sense can teleport. If you've recruited everyone, Castle Town will be much better, and if you brought Tina, he will have a cool cutscene with King. There's also a door that has Mike, but we can't get in it yet. After you're done with talking to everyone, you go to Noel's house and we see how big it is. We have an Among Us reference. Susie and Noel have some alone time and Chris takes out their soul and we have to vent. There are some cool interactions, including Score having the black shard. We then go to the basement, and after Susie and Noel not finding out about our existence, we go back to this room and Chris knocks us out, but Susie and Noel flirt with each other again and Chris has beef with the soul. The lovers then hug and Susie gets the guitar. After some more flirting, Score has a really funny sprite and we finally meet Carol. The game does a good job at presenting her as a villain. She also seems to be working with Chris, or it's the other way around. Either way, it rains and we go to church, but there's a dark world in there. At first, it seems like this is going to be a short one with the fountain being right there, but the knight is there and we have to try to reach it. But Chris is in cahoots with the knight, so we fall down regardless of wherever we get there or not. Once we fall, Susie is about to heal Chris when Ralsei interrupts and heals them himself. He seems to respect Susie healing, which I prefer over him discouraging it, even though he wouldn't do that. We travel through the dark world and encounter cards of the prophecy, which are really cool and make for some perfect memes. Also, this chapter has a new battle theme, which is very nice, and I hope this theme returns. We then go through a dark room and see a shadowy figure who chases us. Once we reach the light, Susie threatens it and then an old man appears. This man looks like Jerson and you should remember this detail. This old man is one of the best characters and is the closest thing we have to a party member in this chapter. If you go to Chris Act menu, you can see an option for the old man where he does all sorts of cool things and can even recruit the enemies himself. Unfortunately, he spends most of his time in his study, but he still plays a major role. We go through some more rooms and do some more puzzles until Jackenstein is the mini-boss of this chapter and my favorite so far. His attacks are quite similar, but once you get the key and wait for a bit, you get the phrase "you're taking too long," and it's very funny. The way to defeat him is to have enough TP to use Unleash, but defending barely helps you, but thankfully the treasure gives you TP. Also, we see the tutu from Undertale and now we have "you're taking tutu." Once we use Unleash, he screams "Mamma Mia," which is very funny. Once you beat him, he hurts his head and it's Susie who heals him, giving us a heal. He also gives us climbing tools so we can climb. You can actually access a secret piano. Oh yeah, there are pianos in this chapter. The orange one requires you to do some secret hunting in order to get it. Or you can search it online. But we'll talk about it in a bit. You do some more climbing puzzles and play this grand piano. There are many tracks you can play, such as, well, not that one. You also have tea with the old man. Speaking of the old man, this room was barricaded, and if you played the right notes on the piano, you would get a new axe. Well, not yet, because Susie has to give this old guy a haircut. At first this seems easy, but he's as strong as Sense and has the power to dodge. That's right, he's the secret boss. But he's actually stronger than Sense because he can use Susie's power against her. He also takes your items, so you have to use Susie's heal, which gets better as you use it. He also makes use of the green soul and takes the square into an octagon, which can be quite difficult. He also has Undine's motif and even the freedom one. He mentions Gerson's Lord of the Hammer, which parallels the Deltarune chapter. This also confirms that chapter 5 is Flower Kingdom. Anyways, after enough time, Susie uses her heal and tricks the old man, cutting his hair. After that, we get the axe, which is really strong. After a bit, we meet the Roaring Knight again, who makes an interesting pose. Susie chases it, but she fails. We then seal the fountain, but there's another one that's locked. We go to the office to look for a code when we find what the old man really was. Auburn Smog. I have to admit, I never expected something like this to happen, but this theory being right is pretty cool since it will encourage more crack theories. Can't wait to see Shrew's reaction to it. Makes us realize piles of dust theory more likely to be true. After discovering that, Susie creates a dark world and it's a messed up version of the last. The soundtrack for this part of the game is really good. We also see the heroes of the prophecy, which has interesting implications. Eventually, we see the old man again, but he runs away from us. We solve some puzzles and some more climbing until we catch up to the old man. Susie talks to him, but this fight is clearly supposed to be a twisted version of the Gerson fight, and it does a good job at that. The voice is a bit nerve-wracking. After a bit, Chris protects Susie from the old man, and phase 2 begins. It's definitely harder than the first. Susie also realizes recreating the dark world was a mistake. The old man turns our soul red and tries to kill us again. After a few more turns, Susie uses healing magic and realizes that it isn't the old man. Ralsei then comes and kills it, revealing it to be a statue that has come to life. Then, he reveals that beings like Gerson can only be revived in certain darkness. Susie then exposes Ralsei for keeping secrets, and Ralsei admits to doing it because he doesn't want to hurt Chris and Susie with his knowledge. I honestly prefer that reason over Ralsei being evil, because that really doesn't make much sense. Once we finish that, this fire hydrant thing tells us the code. Then, Chris and Susie seal the fountain and we unlock the door. We then go back to the dark world we're used to. Eventually, Jackenstein returns and we climb on him but falls. However, if you recruit everyone, Jackenstein survives. After that, we met the knight again. Now, you might think it's another knight fight, but the knight summons a titan. Pretty sure everyone expected there to be a titan fight, but no way did anyone think we would get one this early. But before the fight, we climbed this large pillar. Then, we have a battle with these embryo things. You can either slay them or purify them. After a bit more walking, we finally face the titan. But I just want to say that there should be a checkpoint here. Anyways, we have to use Unleash to deal good damage. Ralsei, despite not wanting to kill, tells us to attack, but he already learned that kindness doesn't always win. After dealing enough damage, the Titan heals itself back to full HP. The fun gang thinks of what to do until... That's right, Auburn Smog is back to save the day. Thankfully, we get Dual Buster, which wrecks this boss. Then, Susie dunks on this boss and we win. But Susie runs ahead and the prophecy reveals a tragedy, but Susie destroys it before we see it. We then seal the fountain and oh boy, it's late at night. It's also the place where it rained. Once we get back, Sense returns and dances with Tariel. Susie goes and Chris tries to go after her, but a voice reminds Chris of a promise. So that's Deltarune chapters 3 and 4. It's really good and I'll hopefully play it. Now, there are some things regarding the weird route which is really messed up. Anyways, I'll wrap it up here. Sorry for taking forever to upload this. Chapter 5 theory vid coming out soon and I'll see you all next time.